And welcome to today's edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie Lubitz, coming off just an outstanding and astounding weekend in the sporting world. The entire landscape was covered when you were watching professional baseball. Major League Baseball as the playoffs, so were very intense. Couple of beauties on Friday night. Or professional football. And we're going to take you down to the field here in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Yeah, this is Dick Dickstein and the crew here. We're down on the field for what figures to be a Super Bowl preview game, and we will introduce you to the starting lineups in just a moment. The Dolphins have won the toss, elected to defer until next week when they play Kansas City. And so we will tell you the officiating crew is being led by Tim Donaghy. Yes, Tim Donaghy of NBA fame has come in here to officiate this ball game because what kind of bullshit is this? I'm not really, I am a fan of conspiracy theories. But this has to come back to haunt the National Football League. A couple of things out of that Philadelphia Miami Dolphins game. The Eagles, I don't know that you could say that they dominated the game. The Dolphins were decimated, Lubie. The proverbial makeshift patchwork offensive line became a line that looked like it was blocking for Russell Crowe in the Gladiator movie. Where the guy gets hit in the face right away as he comes out of the chute with a fucking spiked steel ball. And you're saying, yeah, way to follow your blocking there, Russ. No wonder you've survived 800 of these battles, no matter how vicious, no matter what they throw at you. No problem whatsoever. And I'm beginning to think along the conspiracy theory lines that it's only a matter of time, Lubie. What do you think? Before and maybe this is part of his new contract extension at whatever hideous number it is. And I don't begrudge a guy making as much money as he can on his job. It seems to me that you could be the commissioner of the National Football League. With people like you were some Saudi Arabian prince just throwing money at your feet here. Take my jewels, take my daughter, take whatever you want. Just let us broadcast your games. Nice. And why? Because of the influence of gambling. So at this point, just like they're struggling to establish a Speaker of the House, I would think it would be more appropriate if Pete Rose, not Pete Rozelle, but Pete Rose, was named the commissioner of the National Football League. Forget about Roger Goodell, because when do you think it's going to happen that he's actually going to appear with like Jamie Foxx or any of the Mannings or Kevin Hart or, anybody? I mean, even the players themselves now are advocating gambling sites, right? The Heisman House. Here's Tim Tebow. Hey, you know what? Worship the Lord and gamble your fucking brains out. That's what I want you guys to do. But the league is on tilt when it comes to officiating. I mean, I used to get a kick out of it. They had the same officials in Las Vegas. Some of them, I think, still do fights where you had Jerry Roth, Chuck Giampa, and Dwayne Ford. And you may as well have had Helen Keller, Ray Charles, and Jose Feliciano. They're like, 120, 108, Canelo. Every time. And you're thinking, this is not possible that these three guys could be this blind. And miss calls and miss what was happening and have no real connection to the action whatsoever. But it happened in that game last night. I mean, Nick Sirianni, he has to be coach of the year after that ball game. A big ball game between the Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles prevail. Dolphins, as we said, I mean, that offensive line, as we like to allude to, had more holes in it than an O.J. Simpson alibi. It was just, I mean, Swiss freaking cheese, was it not? Mm-hmm. And, Tua Tagovailoa, who is being talked about, I think at this point, is he not the favorite to win the MVP in the National Football League? And he didn't give a bad account of himself in this game because it was Ben Gazzara time. He was running for his life. And then on top of that, the Eagles incurred no penalties in the game. Not one enforced penalty against the Philadelphia Eagles. They were flagged one time. One time. As Sam Ritigliano would say, just one time, throw a fucking flag, huh? And then on top of that, I mean, I'm not exasperated because we're here in South Florida, because I just watch games, and these are our observations. Libby, you would say that, I mean, this is unbiased, but the officiating, as we were discussing with an NFL insider earlier this morning on one of our other shows, it is atrocious.
Yes, he said.
And when is it to come back? When is it going to come back? Whether it be, should we, as degenerates, all file a class action suit against the National Football League and say, this is a robbery? It's a fucking robbery. Too much is being decided on this, Lubie. Yeah. People have 10-element in-game parlays going.
Mm-hmm.
And it might depend and be contingent on some guy just hit on a tennis match, 10 team or 10 proposition parlay. He bet $28 and hit for $468,000
Wow. Holy
because
crap.
people are betting such specifics, Luby, that it's impossible. It becomes like a lottery ticket, like a Powerball ticket. The odds of you winning are so prohibitive because they've narrowed it down, the criteria for these prop bets, where one catch is going to make the difference between hitting or missing, like a 10 prop parlay. And people are betting this. I mean, they're insane. They're Michigan thinking that they can make a quick score, a big score. So the integrity of the league, which was in question forever for a variety of reasons, now will be under, you would imagine, even heavier scrutiny. And at the same time, it seems like, and do we say this every year, that the officiating this year is as abysmal as it's ever been in any sport in the history of the world? Pro wrestling has more integrity when it comes to officiating. I shouldn't hit the table here. We'll knock us off the air, but that's the way it goes, Khrushchev. I mean, what are you doing? But that was only part of the game. The other part of the game that really struck me. And how do you feel about the push play?
I hate it. Okay, so here's the deal. We're talking about our morning show, and I'll let you get into it. I always thought it was illegal. Like, I know in college, remember the Reggie Bush push?
Yes.
Notre Dame that year. I thought it was legal in college, but illegal in the pros, because whenever in the pros, they'd get around the goal line, and the minute linemen would push, the refs would blow the whistle and push it back. I always swore it was illegal in the NFL for an offensive team to push their player. So when this started happening 2 years ago, I didn't understand it. And now that they say it's been legal, there's nothing in the book. I'm like, what are you talking? My whole life, it was illegal for offensive linemen to push because injuries can happen. The fact that other teams aren't successful at it is the dumbest thing. It seems fucking impossible to stop. Like, it seems impossible to stop. And for the Eagles, it almost is.
I think Belichick, copied that. And Mac Jones failed miserably and ended up losing 12 yards on the play. As he dove further until yesterday into Belichick's doghouse, which, by the way, congratulations, Big Bill. Holy Don Carter. Holy Dick Weber. We're talking 300 here. Another 300 game there by Earl Anthony. I tell you what, the kid from Seattle, this left-hander, he's really got these lanes mastered. 300 wins for Bill Belichick, milestone. And yet, this poor guy, and it was quietly announced. Who knew this, right? People were speculating that Belichick is done.
Yep.
That he's lost favor with Bobby Kraft. He has pictures of Kraft. Not only does he have an excellent resume leading up to the past couple of years, which even last year, it was at least so-so, huh? With a roster of NFL bag ladies, this guy, he managed to do okay. Bill Belichick. It's hard to believe that he doesn't know how to coach anymore. Has he gone senile? Is this, one of these guys like Chuck Noll on the sidelines there going, we're going to run the ball every play. Okay, Chucky.
Okay.
Chuck Knox, right, was another one. Now we're going to run the ball on every play. Sayonara, man. Throw the ball.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about. But he wins 300. But I think we'll go to his grave. I mean, you know that Don Shula is celebrating somewhere in heaven, realizing that Belichick is going to be tortured and probably end up on 327, and then have to stick around like 6 more years while the people in New England are revolting against the Patriots and no longer follow the team, just canceling season tickets. Bob Kraft will be with an even younger babe than he is now. I mean, what is the age differential there? Bob Kraft and this honey that was up there in the box with him as he was sitting. A couple of guys were being inducted into the Patriots Ring of Honor. Mike Vrabel was one of them. He was very noticeable. And some old-time guy that was coaching the team, offensive line, when Gino Capoletti was leading the Patriots onto the field. And they're sitting with Kraft, and there's this babe there, and I'm assuming that's his girlfriend, right? Bob Kraft, or did he marry this woman? Anyway, and that was probably just to get away from the stigma.
They're calling his wife, his now wife.
Yeah.
He's a doctor.
Okay.
Dr. Anna Blumberg.
Well, I mean, she can thoroughly examine Kraft to make sure he's healthy after those visits to the sleazy Asian spas, not even like high level, right? This is a guy that could afford like a $5,000 hooker in Las Vegas and tip her generously on top of that. And instead, he's at some strip mall next to a Chinese restaurant where they're giving massages that, promise the very favorable happy endings. Not a happy ending though for the Dolphins in that game. They had a lot to complain about, including the officiating and then the push play, which I believe, like you, Lubie, should be banned. This is Dean Smith with the four corners. Hey,
Yes.
Dino,
Yes.
shoot the ball.
Yep.
Crazy, right? You got the greatest athletes in the history of the world assembled on one college basketball team, and what are you doing? You're playing, some game of keep away.
You're playing keep away, like 5-year-olds.
The old Shamuja play, just unbelievable. Just keep it away, right? Your little sister can't get the ball. Oh, please let me catch it.
Look, and I know it's the mortal sin in sports to say this, but I literally was starting to yell, "Hurt him!" Like I wanted them to hurt Hurts. Like I understand you never want that, and as much as I've hated Tom Brady and Tim Tebow, I never wished anyone injured. But that fucking play, it was a 20. Like to me, it's the biggest. It's 4th and 1. It should have been 4th and 2. The refs were giving them extra. That was another thing the refs were doing. They were giving them an extra yard and a half on every fucking spot.
Oh yeah.
Should have been 4th and 2.
You would think logically when you reference the pushing before, Lubie, that if forward progress is accorded a running back after he's pushed back 20 yards,
yes,
that as soon as the pushing occurs, that should be where the play ends.
Yes.
I always thought that was not necessarily illegal, but just that's it. You stop the momentum as soon as a guy pushes a guy like that forward. I mean, why shouldn't the defense benefit just like the offense does when a running back gets to the 30-yard line? They push him back to the 15, but they still spot the ball there at the 30. Crazy stuff was going on. I mean, just atrocious misses in that game by the officials, and then this play is going to plague the National Football League, and I know the way to stop it.
Okay.
And we've suggested this, at different times when you've seen a goaltender go into the tank. All of a sudden, the guy who was already weird to begin with just goes off the deep end and he can't stop a watermelon from 3 feet away. And you're thinking, what can you do in this spot? Sumo wrestlers.
Put them at the
Why
line.
wouldn't you? I mean, somebody in the NFL, one of the analytics departments has to come up with the fact that what do we need? We need a 400-pound guy that can push back like nobody else. That's all belly. That's all he does. He's just push a guy out of the ring. This is what he's trained to do since he was a child. He was born into it. It's part of his family tradition and heritage, and they're very proud of it, right? Big, fat motherfucker. And put him right there in the center of the line, no?
That'd be great. The next time they play the Giants Day Bowl, just takes out all 4 defensive linemen, brings in 4 sumos. They're like, they went to the sumos on 4th and 1, and they finally stopped the fucking play.
As the league becomes more and more of a circus.
Yeah, honestly.
Under the guidance of one Roger, let me sign a long, lengthy extension. I say Pete Rose needs to come in there and straighten things out. I'm an advocate of that. Anyway, very interesting the way that ball game was being billed as a Super Bowl preview. Did you see it as that, Lubie? I mean, obviously still has some potential to be that. Yeah. Philadelphia, very good team. Wow, I mean, powerful in the trenches. Yeah. The war is won in the trenches. That's where you win these games. You could have all the skill position players you want. Essentially, that's kind of what happened last night because the Dolphins have sensational wide receivers, very fast running backs, and they were able to, even though Tyreek Hill had a good ball game, Waddle got banged up a little bit in the game, so he was compromised somewhat. But, that being said, great skill position players, but they were beaten to death in the trenches there. Yeah. I mean, that was a mismatch of gigantic proportions. This was, one of those deals where they bring the masked wrestler in from the Midwest, and he's going against The Rock. And you're thinking, what was this guy's last appearance here? The Marvel or whatever you want to call this guy? Oh yeah, he was at the YMCA carnival there in Minnesota just last night. He was wrestling somebody. I think it was for an intercontinental belt or a championship of some distinction there. And he gets carried out in a body bag. I mean, by the end of the first minute of the fight. All right, baseball, crazy stuff. Were you following the baseball at all, Lubie? I'm very excited about this being Mr. Old School. Mr. Mel Allen.
There's just a lot of good football. Friday night, I think the Washington game was Friday night. Saturday there was good games. Yesterday was so like the football sort of took it over for me. But yeah, I kept an eye on it. I know the baseball was ridiculous all weekend.
Yeah, the college football led to any number of atrocities too, including again. I mean, we hate to keep pounding this guy after that ridiculousness of a couple of weeks ago against Georgia Tech, but Mario Cristobal. I mean, you talk about just an absolute I'm a scared, wimp way of handling a situation. Why would you ever want to subject yourself to the arbitrary nature of the college football overtime if you had a chance to win the game, a very solid chance to win the game without really incurring a whole lot of risk? I mean, it's not like you can't control the situation with a minute and 20 to go. And you were where? You were like at your 30-yard line or somewhere around there. You need a field goal to win the game. You're in a tie situation. And instead, with two timeouts and a minute and change to go, they actually advanced the ball to the 40 and still had two timeouts and over a minute to go. And the guy runs the ball up the middle four straight times. A concession basically takes a knee at the end.
Yes. That's
when he should have done it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you finally learned how to take a knee.
How can you be this bad at your job? Honestly, Lubie, the fans are screaming. Big fat guys in section 447, row triple Z are going, go for it. Come on, a screen pass, anything. Try to bust one tackle, and you end up in a possible winning situation. You would want to dodge overtime at all times, right?
Yes.
Just, stave off that appearance in court. Okay, Judge. Like they're doing in Georgia there in Atlanta. Hey, you know what? Jail time doesn't look so appealing to me. But instead, this guy subjects himself, as we said. I mean, I think overtime in college football, it's fine the way they run it, but
I enjoy it, but from a team standpoint, you're never confident. You're like, yeah, overtime.
No.
You don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
It's crazy, right? If you don't score on your first possession, you're finished. The guy kicks a field goal from 42 yards and the game's over. Well, then they don't even have to run a play.
The second one, they start forcing you to do 2-point conversions, which is a pain in the ass. And then the third one is a straight 2-point conversion.
It's like penalty shots, deciding a shootout in hockey.
100%.
Or penalty kicks, even more bizarre in soccer. The goal is the size of the Grand Canyon. It's cavernous. The goalie is going to, as soon as you say, your mother, he's going to dive one way or the other. And even Lionel Messi, the great Messi, just kicks a little fucking dribbler that goes right through the middle of this giant goal. And everybody's like going nuts, right? They start singing songs. That was your Seminole chant in honor of your Seminoles mowing down Duke in the second half. Baseball, though, was great. The Friday night games were spectacular if you're a fan of baseball. 2 late inning turnarounds in the 8th inning with the Astros and the Texas Rangers, and that was game 5 on Friday night. And the Astros continued the trend, which also perpetuated itself last night. Road team has won every game so far in that series.
That's crazy.
In the American League Championship Series. Very interesting matchup of 2 veteran managers, Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy, and both very likable characters. Bizarre incident with players spilling out onto the field after what seemed a ridiculous unwritten rule of baseball. There's no way a guy's throwing at a guy down 2 runs with a runner on base. With the chance to go to the World Series at stake as you're in the late innings. It's just not happening, Garcia. You're full of shit. Should have been thrown out of the game, and the rest should have been left status quo. Now the Astros are having to protest whether or not their pitcher's even going to be eligible, that they need desperately, because both teams seem to be a little deprived once they get to the bullpen. And then the Phillies now up 3-2. Have a chance to close it out tonight in their series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. There it goes, Lubie, evaporating into thin air, 50-1.
They hung on.
It's not over yet, but
yeah, it's probably done.
Certainly doesn't look good, right? There's a chalk outline of the Arizona Diamondbacks outside the stadium in Philadelphia. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for bearing with us. The league really needs to investigate. The officials, you cannot be any lamer.
That was bad.
Seriously, they are at the point where Vince McMahon may as well be the commissioner of the National Football League, which he probably has made some inroads into doing, right?
Right.
With his connections to football through the XFL. He hate me. All right, we'll see you next time. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the Morning Briefing here on NoFilter.net.